Saturday morning, let's explore an excerpt of Yong-jia xuan-jue's Song of Enlightenment. And then let's meditate. This is the Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is brought to you by the kind-hearted folks who help support this channel on Patreon. This morning, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Good news! If at any point during this early morning's live stream, any point at all, you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type the question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. We come to the concluding paragraph of the Song of Enlightenment. Together let us chant. The great elephant is not loiter on the rabbit's path. Great enlightenment is not concerned with details. Do not belittle the sky by looking at it through a pipe. If you still do not understand, I will settle it for you. There's lots of good stuff here. So, I think it's safe to say that when contrasting an elephant with a rabbit, the former is much more courageous than the latter. There are some people who, in their enthusiasm, become masters of minutia, thinking it will make them great Buddhas. And that reminds me of a phenomena I noticed as a young geek with Star Trek, the original series. There were those who became obsessed over the minutia, like, for instance, figuring out, like, if they were going to rewatch the episode where there were a bunch of flowers on a colony that used mind control spores. Well, someone might rewatch that and become obsessed with figuring out the combination to Kirk's safe. Someone else might watch the exact same episode and try to learn lessons of resilience and creativity from watching the characters in motion. Same TV show, different perspectives. One's lost in minutia, one's looking for the broad brush strokes. This was this was typified in a what was it? A Saturday Night Live skit many decades ago when they actually had William Shatner on. And what's true in one thing is often true in many things. And so with Buddhism, many times there are white people who are very, very enthusiastic, but they get lost in the minutiae. And this is not unrelated to anxiety and controlling tendencies. So to explore this further, what I'd like to do is tap button 5 and find a collection of 2 lists. Okay, so yang and yin have different meanings in different settings. Within the philosophy of Lao Tzu, yang relates to patriarchy and the tendency for people to be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, and cruel. I'm familiar with this list. I was raised to be this way. Most of us were raised to be this way. Rigidity, fear, controlling tendencies can make us masters of the unimportant, lords of minutiae. However, when we begin to migrate to the path of yin, the path of true matriarchy, then we become more and more flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, cooperative, and kind. And this flexibility, love, and being laid back help us to take a big picture view of whatever captures our fancy, including the Buddha's path. Feeling fear is a natural human experience. People often ask me, do you feel this, do you feel that? And I respond by saying, I feel the full spectrum of human emotions. The purpose of the path is not to give us some sort of an emotional lobotomy. Au contraire. Mindfulness helps us to notice things that it turns whispers into shouts. But meditation helps us to make peace with our sensory experience, helps us to make peace with our perceptions of the internal as well as the external. The Buddha taught in the final portion of the Satipatthana Sutta that full enlightenment could be attained in as little as 7 years, or 7 quarters, or 7 months, or 7 fortnights, or 7 weeks, or even 7 days. You cannot get a PhD in 7 days. You cannot become a master of minutia in 7 days. You cannot accomplish the 4 collections of Ngondro in 7 days. But you can practice Treksho. You can practice Slice Through. You can practice Dzogchen. You can practice mindfulness, meditation, Zen, Chan, Dhyana, and Mahamudra. You can do those things. And the great irony is that this easy, simple practice is the key to full enlightenment. Do not belittle the sky by looking at it through a pipe. If you still don't understand, I will settle it for you. I had the very good fortune many decades ago, back in the early 80s, to hear a minister speak that if you take a trip to the forest and you sprint into the woods you get out, you park your car, you sprint to the woods, you pull out your magnifying glass and go, bark. You may be able to do an interesting study of bark, but it's not going to give you a big picture view of the forest in its entirety. And you will literally be missing the forest for the trees. This is illustrated heartbreakingly in The Hobbit, when the Hobbit climbs to the top of a tree and he peers out in all directions and sees nothing but trees, but it's an optical illusion because the tree that he climbed in was growing in a depression in the ground in the forest. And therefore, he was unable to correctly perceive that he was actually towards the edge or the outskirts of the forest. Similarly, when we take a myopic, hyper-focused view of anything, including the Buddha's teachings, and tear it violently out of its context, confusion is guaranteed. Now, there are many types of teachers, and this goes back to that list of attributes. Some are rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, and cruel. And they're less in it to help you than to make themselves feel great or to fill their pockets or to, at best, transmit their fears and neuroses to you, which is dreadful. The best type of teacher, the teacher that is in the extreme minority, are the teachers who are mastering the path of being loving, laid back, flexible, egalitarian, cooperative, and kind. These teachers will not be content to confuse you with cryptic aphorisms. They will happily discuss your confusions with you and help you to slice through the Gordian knot of confusion. If you don't accept me as a teacher, then may you find a teacher just as good as me, if not better, in the circumstance that you find most appealing and most conducive to your needs. Let's turn our attention now to this morning's practice text. This latest iteration of practice text, also known as sadhana if you fancy, is titled Easy Meditations Proto-Zen. Go to a restaurant, order a main course, and you're bound to receive a dessert at the end of the meal. Like if you go to a Chinese restaurant, you'll probably get fortune cookies. And if you go to a Mexican restaurant, you'll probably get a basket of chips and a bowl of salsa before the meal. Similarly, great meditation teachers who have become before me have recommended the same thing. That yes, if all you're going to do is meditate, that's swell. But begin with refuge and bodhicitta and end by dedicating merit. And so that's exactly what we're going to do this morning. Let's chant together. May I free all beings by relying on the three jewels. Free all beings from what? Free beings not from the presence, but from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging. Let's continue. May I free all beings by relying on the three jewels. A literalist would say the three jewels are Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Or Buddha, the instructions of the Buddha, and the students of the Buddha. Those who are comfortable with metaphor might describe the three jewels simply as the Buddha's example and instructions and students. Together. May I free all beings by relying on the three jewels. So below this verbiage, you'll find, in addition to a nifty photograph of a Buddha statue, you'll find an image illustrating squat thrusts. Many people are superstitious about Buddha bowing, and that's fine. They're on their own path. On my path, on the rational path, I tend to use step back, chair or assisted squat thrusts as a full body exercise. And I recite this very concise recitation as a way not to just exercise my body, but to exercise my mind as well. I'm going to do 3 repetitions right now. If you wish to join me, you're welcome, but it's not mandatory. So, quick like a bunny, I'm going to Tap button 4. Go into jumbo mode. Oh boy, here we go. May I free all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I free all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I free all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. No, this exercise might not transform you into an Olympic athlete, but it's easy, especially for those with disabilities, and it's fun. It works the cardiopulmonary system. It works the majority of the body. And with the recitation, it also exercises the mind. All right, let us turn our attention now to the dynamic duo of mindfulness and meditation. This set of techniques is known by many names, including Zen, Chan, Dhyana, Mahamudra, Ati Yoga, Dzogchen, and Treksho, which is translated as slice through. Despite the grandiosity of the names, the technique is fairly simple. We can view the techniques through 3 lenses: the mental, the respiratory, and the physical. Physically, simply emulate the posture described by this photograph of a Buddha statue. Forget about the elitist asanas and simply stack one shin upon the other comfortably. Respect the limitations of the knees, remembering that the knees are merely hinge joints, and it's the hip joints that are ball joints. And therefore, it is from the hips that we open up to sit comfortably upon the floor. Our hands are folded comfortably in our lap, with the edge of each hand pressing gently against our lower abdomen, reminding us to breathe from that place as if it was our 3rd lung. We invite our shoulders to find the middle point between the 2 extremes of being hunched forward like Quasimodo or pulled all the way back like a military recruit. We invite our spine to generate traction between our pelvis and our head. We allow a subtle Mona Lisa smile to dance upon the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes. When it comes to respiration, I recommend keeping the inhalation shorter and sharper, and the exhalation longer and softer. Mentally, we'll begin with mindfulness. During your inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. That's the universal label to whatever we experience. You see, every inhalation has been wired to effortlessly access our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved not to actively concentrate, but instead to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. It's as if we are in the audience at a play. We are not the playwright, we are not the director, we're not the producer, we're not the actor. We have absolutely no control. We're just sitting there in the audience, enjoying the ride. It's very similar with mindfulness. We could notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotion, intention, thought, memory, and imagining. Let us turn our attention now from mindfulness to meditation. Every exhalation is wired. So during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. For every exhalation has already been wired by natural selection to effortlessly access our parasympathetic nervous system, which is evolved to both physically relax as well as mentally release. So we're noticing and releasing. That's the Buddha's path. Whatever we experience, whether what we experience spontaneously is external or internal or physical or mental or pleasurable or painful or interesting or boring or glorious or grotesque. On the bottom right-hand corner of this screen, you'll notice it reads, first collection of 16 sets of 16 rounds. The instruction that follows next is completely optional. So I have many disabilities, including ADHD and autism. So between the ears, I'm pretty much a barrel of monkeys. And this has helped me a great deal. Perhaps it'll help you as well. I call this Bengali crease counting. Way back in junior high, I learned weightlifting, and I learned the idea of repetitions and sets. Imagine my surprise when there was a similar idea in meditation. Only instead of using the term repetitions, we used to turn rounds. And a round consists in this system of one inhalation followed by one exhalation. Now we can count 16 repetitions or 16 rounds on just our 4 left fingers and our 4 left fingers and our left thumb. We can advance the thumb during each inhalation. And so it could be first inhalation, second inhalation, third inhalation, fourth inhalation, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. That's great, but it'll only take you a minute or so. Fortunately, if you can count 16 rounds, then on your right hand, you can count 16 sets. First set of 16 rounds, second set of 16 rounds, third, fourth, and so on. So you put this together, and it's a great way of slicing through the Gordian knot of neurosis and anxiety and fear and overstimulation. Like I said, this is not mandatory. It's just a tool that's helped me. It might help you as well. On one hand, I don't want to overwhelm you with too many techniques. On the other hand, I don't want to cheat you out of stuff that you might find helpful. Let's meditate. How, you might ask, does this relate to this morning's passage? This is a very simple practice, but because it is not an act of concentration but of mindfulness, and we are open to whatever crosses our mind's eye, it can reveal to us the entirety of the Buddhist path. Impermanence, wishing love, acting love, enthusiasm, mindfulness, and meditation. A fringe benefit of the regular and sustainable practice of this technique gives birth to the middle ground between the two extremes of complete contrivance and scattered spontaneity, helping us instead to find centered spontaneity that gives birth to the highest love, which is spontaneous and uncontrived, and the kindest communication and conduct and commerce. what is the most sustainable way to live with no regrets? Are we to repress our regrets? Are we to be a post-revisionist historian and tell ourselves pretty lies about what we have or have not done? Or is there a middle path? A path of being vulnerable to whatever surfaces from whatever memories or confabulations surface from the swamp of our mind, to notice them vulnerably, to physically relax, thus setting space to mentally release. Now, mental release is not a euphemism for shoving something away. It just means we're releasing our resistance to what's coming up. That is the freedom the Buddha offers us. Freedom not from unpleasant memories, but from freedom from the habitual and exhausting resistance to those memories. Welcome to the live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Briefly, as you inhale, silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. This is how we practice mindfulness. As you exhale, silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb relaxing. And that is how we practice meditation. Let us seal our practice with a bit of the old wishing love by chanting the essence of Tantra. Not only is this a lovely way of sharing our good vibes with all beings everywhere, but whenever we experience pleasure, whether we're experiencing pleasurable sights, pleasurable sounds, pleasurable sensations, pleasurable flavors, pleasurable scents, pleasurable emotions, pleasurable intentions, pleasurable thoughts, pleasurable memories, pleasurable imaginings, we can use that pleasure as if it was metaphysical battery and spend that battery on the following wishes. Spontaneous fulfillment of all kind wishes of all beings. Spontaneous fulfillment of all kind wishes of all beings. Spontaneous fulfillment of all kind wishes of all beings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with a friend. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. In approximately 2.5 hours, I intend to return to lead today's mid-morning meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy, and if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.